Welcome back, guys. This is the third TMA podcast. Thank you for joining us. And today we're going to be talking about UFC 247, Jones versus Reyes. Jones went out there. He had one of the toughest fights of his career. It was so competitive. It was really one for the ages. And there's so much to take away from it. But you know, I think even with all the controversy that's going on and an eye-opening experience kind of for the MMA community as far as, you know, what we should do with judging or rather that we should do something with the judging, I think it's good. I think it's good for the sport, you know. At least we're sitting here talking about the fight. We're talking about the future rather than thinking, all right, there you go, John Jones, nobody can compete with him. John Jones, nobody in light heavyweight can do anything about it. He's going to go up to heavyweight and destroy everybody. No, we got things to talk about. John Jones had a tough fight. He has a lot of competition now in the light heavyweight division. You know, just from Dominick Reyes. And I think it also encourages a lot of the other guys in light heavyweight, like Corey Anderson, who has a massive chip on his shoulder. Like, hey, I can go in there and actually give Jones the fight that I'm telling people I can give Jones. It's really interesting. We learned a lot. Our predictions were kind of correct a little bit. Yeah. That Dominick Reyes was definitely going to be a very serious challenge. He was actually going to be a threat. And all the things that Dominick was saying leading up to the fight, I'm not scared of John Jones. My athleticism is going to play a big factor. All these things, I'm not intimidated by him. All these things really were true. And you saw that right away. As soon as the fight started, Dominick just brought it right to him. And Jones handled it well. In my opinion, we're going to get into it. In my opinion, I think he lost. You know, I think Dominick won the first three rounds. I think Jones lost the last two rounds. It was close. It was close that third round. You know, you could argue, hey, it went to Jones, but I really don't think it did go to Jones. And I think most people don't think it went to Jones. What do you think, Babu?
Yeah, well, I have to agree with you on that, Ozzy. I think it was 3-2 for Reyes as well. It was definitely a very good fight. I really enjoyed watching it. On to what you said about Dominick, I got to agree. Before the fight, little thing that he said in interviews, in the media, in all the promotions, he didn't really say too much. Like, he didn't really let anything out, but he was saying little things like, I'm very athletic, you know, and he said it from a place of like he was sure of himself. He had no doubts, but seemed like he was humble. Like, he would say things like, hey, I'm a tough guy, you know, or I know angles, or so he wasn't saying something like, oh, I'm gonna go out there and knock him out with my left hand, or he wasn't saying that I have something specific that I'm gonna work on. But he was just saying that he's more dynamic and that he's not like anybody else. Yeah. And he proved himself to be right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's the highest of high levels. You know, you got great fighters, and then, you know, for the whole MMA world, it's like you got legendary, and then you have John Jones.
Yeah.
At this point,
you got guys like John Jones. Yeah, those guys that have an aura about them. You know, it's like when Anderson Silva was right on top. It was like, oh, you're fighting Anderson Silva. Good luck. All right, you know, good luck. You know, have fun doing it, because you're not gonna win. You know, like, enjoy the experience. Same thing like kind of with Ronda Rousey when she was on top. People like that. John Jones is definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, what an example.
And he deserves to be so. You know. And I'm not the biggest John Jones fan. Not when it comes to his skills. Obviously, his skills are so good. He's such a good fighter and all that. You know, I'm not a big fan of him because of what he does outside, with his history, is this and that. You know, is he a cheater? He's got these things in his system. The things, the DUI, hitting people, I don't know what, partying, you know, not representing the UFC belt the way maybe some people think the UFC belt should be represented. But I have to give him credit that all this negative stuff has happened to him, and all these problems he's had outside the octagon, not usually inside the octagon. He's been able to still have a very tough mind, and he comes back after long layoffs, and comes back against top contenders, and he's able to make them look like they shouldn't belong in there with him.
Yeah.
That's really tough to do. You get a healthy guy who's, for some, well, let's say injured champion, who's got no problems except of some minor injury, and he's out for a year. And he comes back, and there's an interim champion, and there's people with momentum behind them. It becomes tough. Now there's a new guy in the block, you know. Jones was always able to come back and prove that, no, I'm the alpha.
Yeah. That's true. What I found very interesting was that John Jones, he lined up all the legends and took them down one by one. And then he was...
Definitely.
Yeah. And then he started fighting people who were from his generation, such as Gustafsson and Thiago Santos and whatnot. And we saw a bit more of a... Like, it was a bit more... it was more tough, these fights with the people from his own generation who kind of came up the ranks after him, and they put more of a competitive fight. And now in Reyes we're seeing the new generation, and we're seeing that whole other level of athleticism, understanding of the angles of just sport in general. So I'm finding that very interesting.
And I think we're seeing the contenders that he's fighting are getting bigger, taller, longer, and he's having a more difficult time with that. We were talking about that before. It seems that we all know his reach advantage is obviously a factor, but in my eyes, I think we're starting to see that his reach advantage is more of a factor than what people have thought it was. You see him look more human every time he fights someone his size, and that's really interesting to me. You know, he isn't able to control these guys the same way he can control shorter guys or guys with less reach. He puts out his hand and he's still getting tagged. He can't keep you outside anymore. He spins around to spin out of danger, and he's getting kicked in the face.
Yes,
he's still John Jones. He's still very skillful, but it's showing me like, hey, these guys are catching up. And also another thing that I took away from that fight, this last fight with Dominick Reyes, he's gonna have a hard time at heavyweight. I think he's gonna have a hard time at heavyweight.
Yeah.
He fights a guy like Stipe. You might disagree, but he fights like a guy like Stipe, who's also big guy, tall guy. He's gonna have that reach, and we know Stipe can go 5 rounds. He's been 5 rounds before, and he's been in scheduled fights for 5 rounds many times.
Yeah.
Versus Dom, you know, Dominic is the first time he's ever been 5 rounds, ever. And it was his 13th fight, and he had to do it against John Jones. Oh, and he won the first 2 rounds as well. Stipe is not going to get tired. He's really technically good. He's such a good fighter. I mean, he's the best heavyweight of all time. And he's big.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be very difficult for Jones to get over. After seeing what he had to go through and his struggles with Dominick Reyes. Whether that was a close fight or not, so even if you want to say that was a close fight and you scored to John Jones, I'll say fair enough. But it still shows to me that it's going to be very difficult for him to have success at heavyweight against top guys. Maybe against a guy like Francis Ngannou, who just relies on his power and is not as technically as sound as some of the other contenders, maybe he can take him out. Maybe he can oblique kick him or destroy his legs, take him down, you know, body shots, just move out of the way of the power shots and all that. But you're not going to be able to do that with Stipe. Stipe is not just swinging for the fences. Stipe is just breaking you down in every sense of the word. So that's really interesting to me. What do you think? How do you think Jones does if he goes to heavyweight? And did this fight change your view at all about it?
Well, it does. Definitely does. I think he still needs some more time if he wants to go up to the heavyweight.
Okay.
I think he should still stick around lightweight, take on the new competition, defend a couple more times there. And how old is he now? He's 32?
Yeah, I think something like that. 30. I'm pretty sure it's 32 actually.
Alright, so he's still got time to grow like physically and skill wise and think about these things now that he's facing bigger opponents such as Dominick Reyes, and he can adjust his style to when he's put in a place where he can't rely so much on his reach, which his style heavily relies on that. Like you said, he's all about keeping people outside, and we're seeing that not working so well when he's facing bigger opponents. So he has to adjust. So if he can learn from this experience and keep just defend another couple more times, just to staple that he can keep with the new guys as well, which is the 3 generations, and adjust and then move up to heavyweight, I think he can have some success. Now, can he be champion of the heavyweight division? I don't know. But I do think he can have success in that division. But he needs more time.
You don't think it would be too much for him to go another 5 fights at light heavyweight before moving up to heavyweight, given the fact of maybe he's starting to slow down due to age, due to this, due to that, due to all the miles he's put in? You don't think it would be difficult for him to put another 5 fights at light heavyweight and then start moving up to heavyweight?
I think he can use that as motivation. I think you're only, like I said, he's not old yet. He's not closing up on 40. When we see people at the highest of level who are past their 40s, and they only just start thinking about retirement. So I think I'll tell you something. What I saw from this fight, from the John Jones that we saw, he seems like he's not the same John Jones that was going out and partying and doing whatever he was doing. He seems like he's got his head down. He knows, okay, now I'm 32 years old. I'm not 22 years old, and I've got my family to look after, and I want to be champion for the next 10 years. That's what he said. So I think we're looking at a very focused John Jones, and that's why I think he's going to be a lot more susceptible to adjustments and to adapt to the challenges that are to come. And I see that he's not.
That's an interesting perspective, yeah.
So
I'm not sure how much I agree with that, but I mean, we don't know what's going on in his head.
No, of course.
We don't know what's going on in his head. That's the main thing. Because obviously, we know that Jones has a tendency of not being motivated enough if he doesn't think his opponent is worth being motivated enough for. Yeah. So we know that he can sometimes walk into fights not having the most intense training camp. And there's a possibility that's what's been happening lately when he's fighting Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos and Dominick Reyes. Dominick Reyes obviously proving that he should have had a very intense training camp for. But there's no way for us to really know that. We don't really know how hard he really trained. We don't. So I'm saying that because I look at his last few fights, and for me it looks like John Jones is slowing down. And the thing that says to me he's not slowing down is maybe he's not motivated because he doesn't think these guys are worthy opponents. So it's really interesting to me. And you have to always think about how much a fighter has gone through, and he's gone through a lot of fights. Because Father Time catches up with everybody. Yeah. And you always see it. All these guys who look just unbeatable, untouchable, they get tagged at the end of the day. At the end of the day, someone comes along, some new guy, fresh young guy coming up, undefeated or whatever, the new contender, and they just get knocked out. They start losing. We've seen it happen to basically everybody. I mean, just from the top of my head, the only guys that didn't happen to is George St. Pierre. And Demetrius Johnson, kind of. I mean, he did lose, but he didn't get knocked out. He lost a decision and he just left the organization. Other than that, no one's come out clean. Nobody. Look at Anderson Silva. I used to think Anderson Silva was untouchable. I was like, there's nobody going to knock out Anderson Silva. Nobody's going to beat Anderson Silva. Chael Sonnen was his biggest rival, Yeah. And what was Chael Sonnen going to do to Anderson Silva? Nothing, He could have won, I guess, 5 rounds of wrestling or something, but he did. He had 2 chances to do that, and he couldn't do it. So you have to really consider, in my opinion, how many more intense training camps does Jones have in him, right? If he goes out there and he puts like another really intense training camp for Dominick Reyes, but the thing is, he's not going to have a rematch next with Dominick Reyes. So unlikely. We never see that. We never see contenders getting a rematch. It just never happens. It barely happens when champions lose. Dominant champions that lose rarely get rematches. Yeah. And so for Dominick Reyes to come out and get a rematch,
you don't think there's going to be a rematch?
I think I don't. Not next. No, the next fight for John Jones. I don't think it will be Dominic.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be Dominic.
That's interesting. I think it will be. I think there will.
I think it should be.
Yeah.
I think it should be. I think Dominic definitely deserves to have a rematch. I think he won the fight. But I think they probably give it to Corey Anderson if Corey Anderson wins. I think Jones is not really interested in a rematch right now. I mean, he doesn't sound like it. He wants to say that there's no way he lost that fight. He's saying, what is Dominic doing? Talking, like being mad at the judges. How dare he be mad at the judges? What is he doing going around doing interviews and talking about how he won the fight? I mean, John Jones is like, I mean, he said on Twitter, oh, after rewatching the fight with my coaches and everything, we definitely didn't lose that fight. All right, I don't know. I'm not the pound for pound fighter. Yeah, I'm not the pound for pound number one fighter. I don't know what I'm talking about, but
yeah, of course.
I think he lost that fight.
Yeah, I mean, he at the end of the day, he won the fight on paper, so
yeah.
So he has every right to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't blame him for doing it, but well, my point about that is that it doesn't look like he really wants to get that rematch. To make sure like he shuts up the haters and stuff. I think he sees like, hey, I can fight Corey Anderson. Maybe he's going to be like a much easier challenge. I get the same amount of money. Or maybe he's thinking about some heavyweight fight, like a Francis Ngannou fight or someone else. I don't know. A Derek Lewis fight.
Yeah.
Something like that. And he's like, man, I could make a lot more money there. And not fight this monster. And hey, when it comes to the UFC as well, they've also got their own perspective. And so for them, they're like, hey, what if we send John Jones to heavyweight, have him have some big major fights there, and then we can have basically Dominick Reyes become the light heavyweight champion and give him you a light heavyweight division, and then John Jones can come down again, like after maybe if he loses at heavyweight, he can come down, and then it can be a interim or Dominick Reyes being the champion, defending his title against John Jones. And then that would be. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that? Like Dominic will be happy because he's the champion. He will obviously really want the rematch. Yeah. John Jones will come down, talking like he never lost the fight anyway, and being like, well, I'm going to come down here and kick his ass again. And I mean, it's all right. I mean, look, press conferences and all that is part of the sport. We love it, So.
No, that's a very interesting route, and that would definitely make a good story.
Good scenario, yeah. Good things to talk about, and
So should we get down to the fight? What did you see in the fight from each contender? What did you like? What did you dislike? Who could have done something better?
Well, okay, so when it comes to what could someone do better? So what could Dominic do better? Nothing. No. I mean, okay, he could have better conditioning. I mean, he did get tired when he came. The fourth round, he was tired. Fifth round, he was tired. But he did do what he needed to do, is win 3 rounds of the fight. And if you win 3 rounds of the fight and then you don't get knocked out or submitted in the last 2 rounds, you should win the fight. And he unfortunately didn't. So in hindsight, you say he should have had more conditioning. But really, if the judging was correct, he did not need more conditioning. He would have won the fight. So it's like he could have improved, but maybe it was something else that made him lose. He could have tried to pace himself better. Maybe, because there was times where he exerted a lot of energy, but I think he needed to exert that energy. I think he needed to put, it was definitely, but when you get in there and it's the fight, you have to moderate yourself. You have to kind of adjust again, no matter how you game plan, right? Because you got John Jones and he kicked you and now your legs out and you're feeling this or whatever, But he needed to exert that energy, I think, to just damage John Jones and just show him like, hey man, I'm here, and because Jones is really difficult to beat when he starts moving forward, not moving forward in the literal sense in the octagon, but when he starts getting ahead in the fight, basically, it becomes really difficult when he gets in his rhythm and then he understands his distance and he gets you to slow down just for a little bit. It's so difficult to catch up, and you've seen him do that with basically everybody. And if you didn't see him do that with someone, it's because he was doing it right from the beginning of the fight, and they never even got ahead at all. It wasn't even a little bit competitive.
Yeah.
You know. So all right. So that's Dominic. If you want to ask about Jones, Jones surprised me actually. You know, I thought he would have a lot more tools, to be honest. You know, in the first 3 rounds, I felt like Jones should have been, like, you know, vintage John Jones should have been able to just do John Jones. You know, like more oblique kicks, more kicks to the body. You know, all his elbows, all his techniques. He was freezing up. He was not throwing. And if you go back and watch the fight, he would have, you know, maybe 30 seconds, John Jones, he would have 30 seconds in the round, in rounds 1, 2, and 3 I'm talking about. Like maybe 30 seconds where he is engaging. And then you would see him for a minute and a half not really throwing any strikes. At all. You can't really do that and expect to win the round. It's not good. It's not good. You know, I didn't think it looked good for John Jones when he was doing that. I was like, you have the skills. Like you know techniques. That's your thing. You're full of techniques. So it was really interesting to me that he couldn't pull out techniques against Dominic.
Yeah.
But you know, that's probably because of Dominic's handiwork. You know.
Yeah.
He was very fast. He was hitting the target. He was getting to the target. And he was putting a very high pace. I think John Jones expected him to get tired a lot sooner. I think he expected him to come out in the 2nd round a little slow. I think he definitely expected him to come out in the 3rd round a little slow, you know, and he didn't. It took him round 4, he came out a little slow. So
yeah, well, I think that for a big part was the way Dominic was playing his game. He, as we saw and as he said, he was very good at his angles and just creating those opportunities. So he was quite bouncy in the first 2 rounds, but he wasn't really committing to a side. So he kept John guessing of what way he's going to go. Yeah. And along with that he
had really good footwork.
Yeah, and along with that bounciness that he had a lot of mobility, and because of his understanding of angles, whenever John was trying to do those long range strikes that he does, like the side kicks and the oblique kicks and whatnot, keeping him at bay, Dominic just found a way to bounce around and find a way in the pocket, and so he did a very good job of negating John's skill set, and also on top of that, what we were talking about, remember you told me how John Jones doesn't go for takedowns like he used to. Like you said, he doesn't use all his tools. But I think in this fight, he went for a couple of takedowns, and in one of them, off the cage, he even locked hands, and it looked like at that point he should have got the takedown right away. But Dominic's just pure strength, he got the underhooks. This happened 2 or 3 times when on all of the takedowns that John attempted, and he just yanked him up. You could tell that he was just so strong that he could just bring John up from the takedown, from the double leg. Didn't matter if he had locked or not, which in most cases, if it's locked, it's done. He could still just wrench him up and completely negate the takedown.
Jones was only able to get like 1 or 2 takedowns in the 5th round. Yeah. Which were, it was to the ground. He was back up. And he even gave Jones like elbows on the way out. So
yeah. Kudos to him. So we've got big things coming up for the UFC, for the light heavyweight division.
I mean, what do you think? What do you think is the future in general for John Jones? You know. Okay. Do you think he stays a light heavyweight or heavyweight, or he goes to heavyweight?
I don't think he goes to heavyweight right away. I
don't think so either, by the way.
I think you're right in the sense that he's going to have a tough time in heavyweight because people.
I think it was a bit of a wake-up call. It was a bit of a wake-up call, I think, this fight.
Yeah.
For Jones' team in general.
Yeah, for sure. So I think he's going to defend a couple more times in light heavyweight. And then from then...
I mean, think about it. If you're John Jones, right? And they're like, hey, you can have a few more fights at light heavyweight, including names like Anthony Smith, you know, or Corey Anderson. Not that those guys are not tough, but Anthony Smith, he already whooped his ass. You don't think he would like to do that again and get a bunch of money, you know, and get another title fight on his record and improve his title defense record, because he doesn't have the record for that. It's the record for most title fights. So I'm sure that's another record he would like to break, and he's going to do that. And well, he could do it at heavyweight if they add the heavyweight defenses. You know, if he wins the title and then defends it. But yeah, he has to go up there and win it and defend it. So I think I think he definitely stays at light heavyweight because he's just got easier fights there. I think he's got easier fights there. And he's comfortable there. He knows how it is. You know, he knows the weights. You never know what you're gonna get yourself into when you go to a different weight class.
That's true.
We've seen it before. I mean, you saw T.J. Dillashaw, one of like the best fighters in the world. You know, in a lot of people's eyes. I mean, he's one of the best. T.J. Dillashaw. I remember when he beat Henan Barao. Man, I was like, and maybe it was a bit too much to say, you know, but I was like, wow, this guy might be the next big thing. And he is a big thing. And he goes down and gets knocked out by Henry Cejudo, a wrestler. You know, and granted, Cejudo is really good, you know, but come on, how many of you expected Cejudo to knock out T.J. Dillashaw in the first minutes of the fight?
Yeah.
You know, so you never know what you're gonna get yourself into when you go to a new weight class, especially after a fight like Dominick. I mean, if I was his team, I'd be like, all right, we need to work really hard. We need to like get better. We need to make adjustments. We need to change some things, and we need to not go for the super big fights right away. Right now, right now we need to get a few under our belt, get comfortable again. But there's so many variables.
Yeah, of course.
Is he declining in performance? Is the age a factor? Is the PED? Some people are saying the PEDs. Maybe some people are saying because you can see the difference a little bit, or the ever since he's been caught, the PEDs and all these picograms and stuff is going on, and now he's under the test, and now he's clean. It was kind of the same period where his performance started to decline, and his body looks a little.
Yeah.
So some people are like, "Oh, it's PEDs."
Also, on that note,
he
does seem like a lot calmer, and that could be something to do with the PEDs, because he did fight a lot more aggressive before, and he was just more aggressive in his trash talk and the way he conducted himself. Now he's got like an air about him that's a lot more calm. Like he doesn't feel like that anymore. He doesn't need that anymore. That could be
or maybe it's just like he's not doing cocaine anymore. But because that's for sure he was doing that. Because look, I want to say, like, I'm not accusing him of doing PEDs, you know, because we don't know for sure. You know, like, obviously it looks like he probably is, but we don't know for sure, so we can't say it, you know. It's, I feel bad, you know, to say that about someone without knowing 100%, because that's a very serious thing to accuse someone of, you know, in sports, you know. So, but there's so many variables with John Jones, you know. Is he declining? Is he this? Is he that? Or is just the level of fighting catching up to him? You know, the guys are getting bigger. Is that catching up to him? Is it just the body type that he's facing? You know, when he's facing bigger guys, that's a problem for him. You know, that's his kryptonite. Is he just, you know?
Well, I say I feel like he's gonna lose in his next couple of fights. Maybe it could be 3, it could be 6, but somewhere in the next few fights, I see him going down. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think if he fought Dominick Reyes in a rematch, at light heavyweight, obviously, would he lose that fight, or would he win that fight?
It's a good question. I think if he goes for an immediate rematch, I think he wins.
I think so too. And
just because he's gonna have some hand-on experience that he can work with and work with his team, and they can talk about it and formulate a plan this time, because that's what he does best. And so I think he wins and he finishes it if they fight right away. Although if it goes the way that you said, for example, where he's
goes up to heavyweight.
Yeah, he comes back and he's fighting a champion in Dominick Reyes. That could change things up a bit because he will be in a different place. He would have had to fight other people and whatnot, and then cut the weight again. Yeah. And then Dominick Reyes is champion, and if he's defended a couple of times, or once or twice even, then that gives him.
Or just won the championship, yeah.
Yeah, it gives him that experience of the championship rounds
and that psychology as well. I think if it's an immediate rematch, just leading up to a fight, it's gonna be Dominick Reyes is gonna be like defending himself, like I won that fight, you know, and John Jones is gonna be like, oh yeah, what does your record show, you know, and stuff like that, you know, and Dom is gonna be like, you know, oh, 1, 3, you know, it's just I don't see it as a good like way to approach a fight, but Dominick like showed that he does have that mental toughness, you know, because he did it the first time. He did it the first time. People doubted him every step of the way. Like, oh, you're athletic. Oh, you know, like everyone is athletic. Oh, what you think because you're athletic, you're gonna beat John Jones. Oh, this. Oh, you have 13 fights. You have no experience in title fights. This is John Jones you're facing. Blah 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 blah. And he goes out there and he wins. Yeah, he wins. I mean, talking about winning, let's talk about these judges.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, brother.
Let's talk about these judges. What do you grade them? What grade would you give them? Okay,
so the particular one failed.
Yeah.
I give her an E.
Yeah. Just, I would expel. Banned.
Yeah.
Well, 4 rounds to Jones. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even John Jones disagreed with that. So if
he did,
he disagreed with that. Yeah. He said that it was 3-2. Yeah. So if even the competitor who won the fight disagrees with your judging, then you know that there's something's not right.
Yeah. Dana White was also trying to like brush it off. He was like, guys, it's not like it was a complete robbery. I'm talking to guys, and some people are saying Dominic, some people are saying it's a draw, some people are saying it's to Jones. And then a reporter asked, like, but do you think the judge that scored it 4 rounds to Jones is a bit ridiculous? He's like, yeah, that's too much.
Yeah.
You can't even.
Well, it's something obviously has to happen, and I'm glad that it became a discussion on broad TV. You know, Joe Rogan and Dominick Cruz. You know, good on you guys for bringing it up and making the comments that you did throughout the fights, and because this is a sport and it's growing to be one of the biggest sports that are in the world. So we need competent people, and we need a system that's not going to be different in different states. Everyone needs to be under the same umbrella and know what's going on.
Exactly, they need to.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to be very clear how a fight is judged and how a fight is scored. It needs to be very clear. Yeah. You can't have different philosophies and this and that. You can't. If you did your job as a fighter in the fight, and it goes a distance, you have to be able to rely on the judges to do their job. You did your job; they need to do their job. This is not a joke. This is it's not a small part. It's not a small thing. So many fights go the distance, and then yet we're like, oh, never leave it in the hands of the judges. What? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's a big part of the sport that the fight goes the distance, and we have incompetent judges, judges who don't practice martial arts, judges who are obviously not experts. You can't, especially when you look at that. Especially when you look at that 4-1. I mean, listen, you want to argue Jones won 3 rounds? I'm not going to crucify you. You know, maybe that 3rd round is close. You know, maybe and it was a little close. You know, but yeah, you could give it to Jones. All right, you know, all this, all that. But 4 rounds, 4 rounds is that's a robbery. That scorecard is a robbery. That one is a robbery. And that should not happen. And the fact that there's no repercussions, there's no nothing. The next time there's an event there, they're going to put the same judge there, and he's going to ruin a whole bunch of fights. And I mean, it's sad, really. Yeah. Because you just feel powerless. You just hope that because so many people are talking about it. You know, that something is going to happen, and a lot of people are talking about it. So everybody, I mean, every MMA analyst and journalist and reporter is basically talking about how silly the judging is in MMA right now, you know, because of this discipline.
Yeah, well, that's exactly where the problem stems from. Like you said, it's not ex-martial arts experts or ex-fighters that are doing these jobs where they should be put in those positions and paid a hefty amount to do these jobs because they can do a good job. But instead it's being left up to the commissions to bring these people in who, I don't know, they probably for the most part borrowed from boxing, which is a completely different sport, or I don't know where they're getting these guys from, but they're bringing in these guys who are not martial arts
mostly
experts.
from boxing.
Yeah, there you go. And
which doesn't make sense.
No, it
it's
doesn't.
like, oh, we're both combat sports, so
yeah.
So let's just use the same judge for everything.
And the other thing is that there are no repercussions. Now, you don't need. Okay, we don't need to make it like a big deal, like to completely shame a man or take away his license forever. People make mistakes, but what we need is some kind of system, some kind of scoring system, even kind of like what they do for refs, but for judging. And so that if someone does make a mistake, you don't have to be perfect all the time, but if someone does make a mistake, then there should be a kind of hierarchy of who is going to judge what matches, kind of like the refs. You know, for the top games, you're going to have the top refs, the top five.
Like the qualification, like you need to qualify.
Yeah.
If you work on the local circuit and you're judging these, you know, local fights, you know, no one, not televised or anything.
Yeah.
And you do good, you can move up. You can start, you know, in a bigger league. And if you're a really good judge, you can start judging in the UFC, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you start slipping up, like you said, not, oh, we're going to shame you or we're going to take your license away. If you give like that scorecard, you slip down a bit. That's like, dude, that was a really bad call. You know, like, we can't really have you do that in a championship fight in the UFC. Go and, you know, score these other fights for a while. Get some more experience and come up.
I think that's a great way of going about it, and especially if you get people who are experts. And I mean, it's the martial arts world, so we know who a lot of people who are and who aren't.
And there's so many experts, and there's so many guys who are willing and wanting to be involved in that, to be involved in refereeing, to be involved in judging. But the problem is the athletic commission is the athletic commission, and unfortunately they don't know anything about our sport. And they think they do, but they don't. Yeah. I'll challenge you. I'll challenge you this. Go and look at some of those judges and find them on social media. They're not even following the UFC.
Really?
You know, they're not even following. Like they're not even in it. Like they're not even fans. They don't even care. Like if you're a judge for MMA. And the only time you are involved in MMA is when you go to an event to judge. You should not be judging. I mean, honestly, you should be a fan of the sport. You should know what's going on. You should be involved in it. I mean, how can you even keep up? There's new techniques. Every event, there's new techniques that come out. There's new skills that are being revealed. I mean, try being an MMA fighter and never watch an MMA fight. Good luck. What are you gonna do? 1-2 kick? You know? Like, you know, you have to keep up. You have to see what people are doing, and then you go to the gym and you incorporate them. Same thing with judging. I mean, you need to see like, oh, like you see this scenario, you see that scenario, you start to understand, you know. And you need to be involved in it. You need to go and practice. Yeah. And right now, I think the judges should actually be removed and just new guys come in completely, unless you're gonna proper school the judges on how to score fights and what they should look for and what they should not look for. But then you see, like, as you can see now, especially now that Dana has kind of chilled compared to his golden years. But he's not like they don't want to. They don't want to get involved too much, and there's too many pieces at play, and there's too much politics surrounding it. And like I said, the commissions, they want to do
their thing, and they're gonna feel like they know what's best because they did their thing with all other sports and boxing for all those years and whatnot. And it's just a shame. It's just a shame that all these politics have to be involved, and we can't just put together a good system with a good rule set and good judges, and just so we can finish off the put a cherry on top of the cake when it comes to this sport and just make it great. Not worry about these things because it's crazy. You wouldn't expect to worry about these things at this level of competitiveness and of being a sport.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And I mean, it's stressful for us as fans to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine how stressful it is for the competitors themselves, especially at that high level. Like Dominick Reyes, or any of the other guys who have been robbed. Or not had bad decisions. It's so tough.
Yeah, and come to think about that, think about how much harder it is for the athletes if the athletes do something wrong. Do something outside the octagon where
they get in loads of trouble.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go. They have to do hearings and whatnot, and they have to really go through a lot.
I think Dominick Cruz put it the best. And it was at the event, after the event when he was talking about let's just have a dialogue. The athletic commission wants to be just closed. It's let's open up, let's listen to us a little bit, take a little bit of what we say something back to us, we'll say something back to you, let's open up a little bit of a dialogue, slowly improve things, I think that's really good, because I get the idea of the athletic commission being separated from the UFC and stuff, because of course, if the UFC can pick and choose who the referee and who the judges are going to be, and all these things, the cutman, obviously, it's not good because then you can be like, they're putting the judges and they're paying the judges to make John Jones or whoever win, and they're getting to the referee to not give fouls to this guy and give fouls to the other guy, and of course, I mean, and if something shady is gonna happen, it can happen in that situation, so. That's the whole point of the athletic commission being cut off from the UFC and the MMA world in general. But that's a problem because the athletic commission are not MMA guys, and they just don't know our sport as much as they think they know our sport. They just don't. They just don't. And Dominick Cruz put it really well. Let's just open up a dialogue. We don't want just full control of the athletic commission. Just a little bit of a dialogue. We need to work on some things.
Yeah.
So I think that would be good, and the fact that now they're gonna have some live scoring in Texas, it doesn't change much. In my opinion, I mean, a bad judge is still gonna judge bad, so the scorecards are still gonna be bad. They're just gonna be shown after every round.
That's an incentive to do a bit better.
yeah, but I mean, like we were talking before, I think if you're already trying to kick the other guy's ass, like Dominick Reyes, I'm sure he was still trying to kick Jones' ass in the fourth round. If he had the scorecards up there saying he was losing, how much more motivation was he going to give him? Was he going to go out there and kick his ass in the fourth round?
Of course.
But
no, I mean for the judges, if they're going to see that my score's going to be up there as soon as I finish the thing, or it doesn't even matter if it's judge 1, 2, 3, and 4, and who's then they're gonna think twice about looking down at their phones for 30 seconds and things like that.
Maybe
just saying. We got our eyes on you, man.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I don't know how exactly it's gonna change the dynamics, but it's not gonna fix things for sure. That's for sure. But it's a little step. And I think the right direction. It's a little bit of the athletic commission changing something, a little something. The athletic commission never wants to admit they're wrong about anything. They're never wrong. I mean, go back in the history books. How many times have they admitted that they're wrong? And we know they've been wrong so many times. They tried to ban Diaz because of freaking weed.
Yeah.
As if he's taking steroids or something. It was just like a personal grudge against him because he was going, you know, Fifth Amendment and Vice Fifth Amendment, right? And he was like, you know, I don't want to answer, and then they took that as disrespect. They don't know Nick Diaz. They don't know that he doesn't even want to talk in press conferences. He doesn't want to do interviews that make him money, that give him publicity, that gets him more fans, gets him more followers. He doesn't even want to do those interviews. You think he wants to go in front of a bunch of government-looking guys, definitely the guys he does not want to see in front of him, and they're going to ask him, like, if he's smoking weed and if that's enhancing his performance at the octagon. Of course he doesn't want to answer that, you know, and then they took that as a personal thing, and then they want to ban him and stuff, and you know, like, they don't want to admit they're wrong, and thank God, like, they pulled back on that.
Yeah.
You know, but it was because of all the pressure that the people put on them. And I think this is a similar thing as well, you know.
Yeah.
But what they should not be so sensitive. You know, if they do something wrong, no one's gonna burn you on at the stake. You know, like you did something wrong. Let's have a dialogue. Let's figure out what we can do better, and let's just, you know, take small steps. And maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, we'll have a much better sport when it comes to, you know, organization and rule sets and all these things, and the judges that are involved in the scoring system that's being implemented and all these things. It's a long process, you know. But
yeah, well, we will have much better sport and safer sport and more entertaining for sure. I really believe that. It'll be better for everyone all around. That said, I think we got a message. We need better judges, guys.
Better judges.
I
We should sign up.
Yeah, you know, this is all part of the plan, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know. So on a lighter note, I want to say a couple of words about some of the other fights because I found them to be very interesting, actually.
Yeah.
On the main card, okay, we all saw the demolition that Valentina brought upon.
Who can stop her?
Yeah, that was
Who's going to stop Valentina?
That was just a pulverization. Another one.
She's in a tough spot. I mean, she's not in a tough spot, but she doesn't have any contenders in her weight class. She lost to Amanda twice, and then she's got, you know, Wei Ling, who just became champion. You know, that's possibly a match for her. You know, but Wei Ling now is fighting Joanna. I think that's the only big fight for her is Wei Ling. You know, like a double champ situation.
Yeah.
Because who is she gonna fight in her weight class that will even be? Actually, now that I'm talking about it, maybe some of the girls from strawweight will come up to flyweight. Maybe, but I mean they need to put on a lot of muscles. I mean, imagine if Rose Namajunas, for example, that's the person I'm thinking of. Imagine if Rose Namajunas came up, went up a weight class and challenged the Valentina. That would be interesting.
It would be.
But I don't see that happening. Because
No.
Rose is, you know, her weight class is strawweight. You know?
Yeah.
If she comes up to flyweight, I think she'll be giving up a lot of weight, a lot of size. You know.
Yeah, I think so.
So Valentina is in a tough situation as far as finding opponents.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And as we saw, yeah. So what I found really interesting was not the whole fight, but parts of the fight was the Derek Lewis and Ilir Latifi fight.
Yeah.
I was actually looking forward to that because I didn't know. I've seen a couple of highlights, but I didn't know too much about Ilir Latifi. I knew that he's a tough guy.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. What?
Come on, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And then he was coming up to have his debut in heavyweight, and I was really looking forward to seeing his Greco-Roman wrestling style because it's very awkward and you don't really see much of that. And I wanted to see how that will be against a guy like Derek Lewis, who's a big boy, one of the biggest guys in the division. And man, when he finally got Derek Lewis in his class, the double underhooks, he threw him across the octagon like he was nothing. He, you know, when it comes to takedowns,
Derek is a big boy.
Yeah, he's a big boy, brother. So when it comes to takedowns and whatnot, then the whole idea is you want to create a disturbance on the points that they're on the floor. So you would usually go for it, try to like get someone like with a sweep when he throws a kick, so his balance is compromised. Or anyway, when someone's balance is compromised. So with Ilir Latifi's Greco-Roman style, he created that compromisation by just lifting him up. Now he lifted up Derek Lewis. I mean, what more can I say about that? Derek Lewis is a
achievement
big guy. Yeah, so he created that bit of space and then just
put his belt just for that.
Yeah, and then just put his foot up and just threw him across the octagon like nothing. I mean, it's his body. That's how his body type goes. It's how his body type is. So he can definitely get a lot of weight up because of his low center of gravity. I would imagine if he wanted to change sport and he wanted to go into like a strongman competition, I could see him having a lot of success there because he's very short, stumpy, and all that compact muscle and mass. He could definitely utilize that in that way, and that's what we saw in Derek Lewis fight. He picked him up, put his foot up, and just flung him across like he was nothing.
Yeah.
I was really shocked about that. I did give the fight to Derek Lewis, just because I felt like he was more active and he was controlling the fight a bit more, trying to create opportunities. But that definitely was that moment reached its expectation for me. I just think that Ilir he has to be more busy on the ground. I think he needs if he wants to throw people in an awkward position that they're not used to and then get onto them, then he needs to work on his ground and pound from all angles and kind of become like a miniature Brock Lesnar, you know, in that sense. That's the way I see it. And I think if he did utilize that when he had on the ground, I saw a lot of openings, I think. I think he could have taken that if he did more damage while he was in that superior position.
I think it was a good fight for him, you know, because I mean, obviously he didn't walk away with the win. He walked away with a loss on his record, but this was his UFC, this was his heavyweight debut. And he came out and he fought Derek Lewis. And, you know, he lost on a decision. So, he went out there, fought a proper, you know, top 10 guy, top 5 guy. And he didn't get knocked out, he didn't get submitted. He didn't get, like, completely dominated, you know. He wasn't, like, wilting and just surviving, you know, and just, like, got out of there without getting knocked out. So, I think it's good for him, you know. I think he goes back home. He watches tape, he sits down with his coaches and they go, alright, we can do some stuff at heavyweight, you know. We can definitely compete with these guys, you know. Derek Lewis is a big guy as well, you know, he's one of the bigger guys as well, so he had that taste of high level heavyweight and heavyweight size as well, you know, under the big lights, you know, on the fight card with 2 title fights on it. In Houston, he fought Derek Lewis is also, you know, Derek is from Texas, so it was in his home, in his backyard as well. So the cards were really stacked against Latifi.
Yeah, it was.
And he came out pretty good, you know. And so I think it's good. It's the beginning of a journey for him, you know. This is a journey for him. Obviously, he's obviously on the mindset of this is a journey for him because he just came into heavyweight, and he wants to see what he can do there. So
yeah, I
think him looking to the future. He's going, you know, I can do something here. And so I'm really intrigued to see what his next fight is. As well as Derek, you know, what do you do with Derek? You got Derek, who's obviously capable of knocking out anybody. You know, he just lacks that, like, proper championship level skills, you know. His conditioning maybe is not completely there, you know, or maybe his skill set is just not complete, you know, and it's weird because he's just one of those guys who he could go out there and knock out the champion, but he's not like the type of guy that would probably defend the title too many times, you know, because he'll have like camps where he just decided to eat too much chicken or something, you know, or like go into a fight and be like, oh, I need to poop. You know, in the middle of a championship fight, you know, like weird stuff like that. I mean, but that's why we love him, you know.
Yeah.
And people are always going to want to tune in, but it's, what do you do with them, you know? Do you start moving them up, do you start...
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's true. Now, what, he fought on his debut. Who did he fight before? What was his last fight? Yeah.
Oh man, I can't remember, like, on the top of my head. I believe, I think it was Junior Dos Santos. It was definitely one of his most recent fights. I feel like maybe he had a fight between that. But yeah, I mean, what are you getting at?
So what do you do with him after that, after Ilir Latifi?
I mean, he won, so he has to maintain his ranking or move up, right?
Yeah, of course.
And, the thing is, he's fought a lot of guys as well, and he's fought for that title against DC, and he lost it to DC. And now you got someone even tougher, really, than DC as a champion, so, like, you can't really go and fight him. And, let's see, and there's the guys like Francis Ngannou, which we've done before, and that was like such a boring fight, which, if they did that fight again, it'd probably be super exciting. They probably would knock each other out, but no one is going to sign up to watch that fight again. I mean, that's probably the most boring fight of the decade. I don't know how many punches were thrown in that fight, if any.
Well, yeah.
I don't know, he's in an interesting place.
Alright, and
fight Jones? No, and honestly, that's a possibility. If Jones goes up to heavyweight, I think he would choose someone, not a champion right away. He's not gonna fight DC. It's not gonna happen.
Although he seems pretty confident that he wants Stipe at heavyweight.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how confident he is that he wants Stipe. I think
at this point.
I think he wants people to know that he wants to fight a heavyweight and the UFC is holding him back. I don't know. It's weird because he keeps mentioning that. He keeps mentioning like, I wanted to fight Stipe, but UFC wants DC versus Stipe. I don't know. It's just weird, like the way he says it. I think if he goes up to heavyweight, I think he will choose someone like Francis or Derek Lewis, someone who has a big name. Who people are gonna go, I want to see Jones fight that guy because that guy could knock out Jones, but Jones could definitely defeat them as well.
Those guys have clear holes, such as their cardio,
Francis
and their grounding, for example. They're not as good as they're not on the level of Stipe, for example, or DC. Either cardio or grounding. So John definitely has some things he can definitely work with.
But Derek would be definitely a more difficult fight for him, I think. I mean, with Stipe, obviously none of us can do anything not to Stipe, sorry, I mean Francis Ngannou. Obviously none of us can go in there and do anything with Francis Ngannou, but if you're John Jones and you have the skill set of John Jones, I think it's relatively easy to try to just maneuver out of the way of those power shots. I mean, John Jones is excellent, movement and all that.
Yeah.
But I mean, to go back to John Jones, and I'm super excited to see the next John Jones fight because it's going to answer a lot of questions. It's going to answer a lot of questions because right now there's too many questions. Just too many questions. I mean, is he declining? Is he this? Is he that?
Yeah, of course.
Was it just Dominick Reyes? Was it this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there you go. Look, we went straight back to John Jones. It's a lot that can be said about him. Talking about that, the last card that was on the main event, John Jones, teammate, guy who trains in Jackson Wink, also is fought Juan Adams versus Tafa. He was a very Mark Hunt kind of fellow.
I thought it was. When I saw that guy for the first time, I thought it was an old picture of Mark Hunt.
Yeah, that was. I really enjoyed
watching that fight. Like curly hair. That guy's fun.
Yeah.
Even got the same tattoos. The same. Are you sure that's not Mark Hunt?
From the
future. He's like Mark Hunt's cousin or something. Like a lost cousin.
Yeah. Well, I really liked his game.
He's Hawaiian.
He had a really good understanding of his angles and getting in the pocket, and he got.
He took his time.
Yeah.
He took his time.
Yeah, he did. But he got that great knockout.
I was watching that fight, everybody was like, oh, that guy's kicking his ass. I was like, he's waiting for an opportunity. He's calculating. And he went for it. And I mean, you're a big guy like that, and you got that physique, like that Mark Hunt physique. And you learn how to, really sit down on your punches, and use movement, you know, to just avoid strikes and be patient, you know. Just avoid strikes, use defense, figure out your distance, and when you get the opportunity, you only need one or two with that kind of power, you know.
And that was it. There were 2 punches, I think, that were landed straight. The second one was an uppercut.
Yeah.
And he was clean out.
Yeah. You heard him like some hooks, I think. I can't really remember. I remember the uppercut, yeah. But yeah, you heard him just like 1-2 strikes now. BAM!
Yeah.
Uppercut right in the money. But he was already hurt, but that uppercut was still so satisfying to watch. I'm sure it was not satisfying to like eat, you know, but ouch. But yeah, I mean, great fights. Great fights.
Yeah, it was a great event.
Great fights. Great event. I don't know what to say about the judging.
No comment on the
no
judging.
comment. Yeah. No comment, you know. But at the end of the day, we're not talking about the people themselves, you know. We're not taking a shot the judges as human beings or anything, you know. It's just if you have a certain job, you really need to be qualified for that job, you know, especially when it's such a high stake job.
Yeah.
It's championship fights, man, you know, it's serious. It's people's careers. People pay money to watch this as well. Like, people fly out to get to these places. People bet money on this, you know. It's the teams behind these fighters, you know, their whole careers change. You know, it's and just for the respect of the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, the title means something. It means the best fighter in the world. And if someone else is the best fighter in the world and they don't get to get that belt because you did a bad call as a judge, like, it's just sad that that's part of our sport, that we just accept that. We're like, okay.
Yeah, of course. It's just really respect for everyone, for the fans. We're fans, and I think I can speak for all of the fans, you know. We want this sport. We're very passionate about this sport, obviously, and we just want to see it at its best. We want to know that everyone is safe, and we can get the best outcomes, the most clear, correct outcomes. Yeah. And so it can be fair for everyone. Like you said, people are putting their money on it. People are betting. So someone, just because of your bad decision, could have lost lots of money, even if that wasn't the right thing. If you should have won a lot of money, and that's not right. And you know. And
the fighters themselves, I mean, as well. I think it's more.
Yeah, even more.
Because even though it's just 2 fighters at a time, you know, but this is their livelihood, man. They worked so hard. Like, even people like us who like watch the sport so much, and you know, maybe let's say we have a better appreciation to how hard these guys work. Like, we still have no idea how hard these guys work, you know, and like all the pain they suffer and all the things they go through. It's just it's not fair, you know.
Yeah. So it's just respect for everyone, really. Firstly, the fighters, then the organization, and then the fans, you know. So,
but you know, it was a great event.
Yeah.
And it gave everybody a lot to talk about, you know, which good or bad, we know as MMA guys, we love to do that, you know. You know, I mean, look at us, we're hyped up, you know. It's a couple of days after the event now. So I am super excited about what's next for John Jones. I'm super excited for what's next for Dominick Reyes. I'm super excited about what's next for the light heavyweight division. The event is even going to be excited about, you know, what's up for the heavyweight division. You know, like if Jones is going to get involved in there, if Derrick Lewis or Francis Ngannou is going to fight Jones, if the title at heavyweight is going to be open to John Jones, all this, you know. There's also going to be excited about Corey Anderson's fight, you know, coming up next week, because that's a potential as well, you know, and so really exciting, man. You know, as far as Valentina goes, you know, it's just kind of like, okay, so who's next, you know, like, because obviously she's so much better than everybody in her division. It's kind of hard to get excited. It's hard to get excited for it, you know. I mean, you want to see her fight someone who you think maybe can beat her. That's how you get excited. Yeah. And Jones was in that situation a little bit, and now he's not anymore. He's right on the flip side. Yeah.
So it goes to show how far can Valentina go, you know. We'll see if there's any newcomers who come up the ranks or anything, you know. Anything could happen. Yeah. So, on that note, I think we're good.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Guys, make sure to like, subscribe, comment,
and share.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram. Like us on Facebook. TMA, the Martial Arts Academy.
Yeah, guys.
Thank you guys very much for watching. See you next time.
See you next time, guys.